In terms of football, nothing can match the World Cup. Even while the UEFA Champions League may create matches of the same caliber, it is not allowed to exceed the stature that has been attained due to the competition's long history and the fact that one team represents a whole nation. The most recent FIFA World Cup attracted almost 3 billion television viewers worldwide, and 1 billion people watched the final. No other sporting event can compare in prominence. The first FIFA World Cup was played in 1930, when FIFA, the organization that governs football worldwide, decided to host an international men's football competition. FIFA President Jules Rimet was responsible for coming up with this concept. 13 teams were invited by the organization to compete in the first edition, which was held in 1930. Since then, the World Cup has seen numerous expansions and format changes. The 32-team final tournament that is now being played is preceded by a 2-year qualifying process that features more than 200 teams from around the globe. Football on a global scale before 1930. Although it was still uncommon for the sport to be played outside of Great Britain at the time, Scotland and England competed in the first ever official international football match in Glasgow in 1872. At the end of the 19th century, matches between top English and Scottish clubs were regarded as the Football World Championship, such as Sunderland AFC's victory over Heart of Midlothian FC in 1895. Football had become more popular worldwide by the turn of the 20th century, and national football associations were beginning to form. Uruguay and Argentina squared off in the first official international game played outside of the British Isles at Montevideo in July 1902. On May 22, 1904, football associations from France, Belgium, the two teams before it had played their first national match against one another earlier in the month, Denmark, the Netherlands, Spain, Sweden, and Switzerland, with Germany pledging to join, formed the Fédération Internationale de Football Association, FIFA, in Paris. Football was played as an Olympic sport at the 1900 and 1904 Summer Olympics, as well as the 1906 Intercalated Games, as its popularity began to soar. Football then transitioned to an official FIFA-supervised Olympic tournament with the 1908 Summer Olympics. The event, which was put on by the English Football Association and was only open to amateur players, was viewed with suspicion as a performance rather than a match. Both in 1908 and 1912, the event was won by the England national amateur football team. In 1906, FIFA attempted to host an international football competition between nations outside of the Olympic framework, and this event was held in Switzerland. The competition was deemed a failure in FIFA's official history, which was written during the very early years of international football. Competitions involving professional teams also began to arise as the Olympic event was still only played out amongst amateur teams. One of the first was the Torneo Internazionale Stampa Sportiva, which took place in Turin in 1908. The following year, Sir Thomas Lipton organized the Sir Thomas Lipton Trophy, which also took place in Turin. Individual clubs, not national teams, competed in both events. Each club represented a single country. The Thomas Lipton Trophy is sometimes referred to be the first World Cup, to the detriment of its less well-known Italian predecessor, even though neither was a direct precursor to the World Cup. Initial stages of the World Cup. FIFA decided to host their international competition in 1930. Football was not intended to be a part of the Los Angeles 1932 Summer Olympics program because it was not a popular sport in the country. Football was eliminated from the games because of disagreements between FIFA and the IOC regarding amateur players' status. Jules Rimet, the president of FIFA, began the process of planning the first World Cup. Uruguay was chosen as the host nation by FIFA since they are now two-time reigning world champions and will be celebrating their 100th anniversary of independence in 1930. The national associations of the chosen countries were invited to submit a team, but because Uruguay was the competition's location, European teams had to travel a long way and at great expense across the Atlantic. No European nation committed to sending a team until 2 months before the competition began. Teams from Belgium, France, Romania, Hungary, and Yugoslavia were eventually persuaded to travel by Rimet. In all, 13 countries participated, including 7 from South America, 4 from Europe, and 2 from North America. The United States and France won the first two World Cup games, which were played concurrently. They defeated Mexico 4-1 and Belgium 3-0, respectively. France's Lucien Laurent scored the tournament's opening goal. In the United States' 3-0 victory over Paraguay 4 days later, Bert Patenaude scored the first hat-trick in World Cup history. In the championship game, Uruguay defeated Argentina 4-2 in front of 93,000 spectators in Montevideo to win the World Cup for the first time. To the dismay of many South Americans, the 1938 World Cup competition was also staged in Europe, in France, with Uruguay and Argentina abstaining. The holders of the titles and the host nation received automatic qualification for the first time. Austria had technically advanced to the final round following a play-off match against Latvia, but due to the Anschluss with Germany in April 1938, the Austrian national team withdrew, with some Austrian players being added to the German roster, which was eliminated in the first round. England was given the chance to take Austria's position, but they declined. There were now 15 countries competing in the finals. The competition was held in France, but for the first time, the hosts were unable in retaining their title as Italy defeated Hungary in the championship match. In Poland's 6-5 loss to Brazil, Polish striker Ernest Wilimowski became the first player to score 4 goals in a World Cup match. His record was eventually tied by several players, but it wasn't surpassed until 56 years later, at the 1994 World Cup. FIFA World Cup of 1942. In 1942, the FIFA World Cup was slated to occur. On August 13, 1936, in Berlin, during the 23rd FIFA Congress, Germany submitted an official application to host the 1942 FIFA World Cup. Brazil also submitted a bid to host the competition in June 1939. Before a host nation was chosen, further preparations to cancel the 1942 World Cup were sparked by the outbreak of hostilities in Europe in September 1939. The FIFA competition didn't happen. FIFA struggled to stay viable during World War II and lacked the financial or human resources necessary to organize a tournament for peacetime play once hostilities ended. When the war ended in 1945, it became obvious that FIFA had no chance of organizing and arranging a World Cup in 1946 in just 1 year. FIFA held its first meeting on July 1, 1946, which was close to the time the 1946 World Cup would have normally been held. At that conference, it was decided that no country would host the 1949 World Cup. Argentina defeated Brazil 2-0 on February 10 in the 1946 South American Championship, the only significant international competition that year. The 1960s. The 1962 World Cup was held in Chile. The strongest known earthquake, with a 9.5 magnitude, occurred 2 years before the competition, forcing officials to reconstruct owing to extensive infrastructure damage. Due to Pelé's injury in Brazil's second group match against Czechoslovakia, 2 of the top players were out of the competition at the start. In addition, the Soviet Union saw goalie Lev Yashin perform poorly, losing to Chile 2-1 and the hosts taking third place. The 1970s. The 1970 World Cup's qualifying rounds took place concurrently with the football conflict between El Salvador and Honduras. Mexico hosted the championships. Israel had previously played for Europe, but it was become more difficult to properly put them in the preliminary rounds due to political difficulties. They belonged to the Asia/Oceania region. The 2020s. South Korea and Japan jointly hosted the first World Cup to be staged in Asia in 2002. At 13 years, 310 days, Souleymane Mamam of Togo became the youngest player to ever step onto a World Cup preliminary game field in Lomé, in May 2001. In South Africa, the 2010 World Cup was staged. Spain won the inaugural tournament that was held on African soil. The competition was notable for its opening matches that featured a lot of defense, debates over goal line technology, and the introduction of vuvuzelas. The first World Cup to be staged outside of the traditional summertime is the 2022 edition, which will be held in Qatar. Currently, it runs from November 20th through December 18th, 2022. So this is the end of our video. Do you feel it helpful? post your valuable response in our comments section below. And subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos.